Greetings, my saplings. In today's video, we will be discussing none other than the Off-White Jordan 4 sale. To be specific, like always in these How to Cop guides, we will be mentioning some release info and some background information on the sneaker, how to cop them, and of course, like always, some resale predictions. The Off-White Jordan 4 sale releases this Saturday, July 25th for $200. Technically, they are only releasing in women's sizes, but they did produce them up to a women's 16.5, which is a men's 15, so pretty much any men should be able to wear these without issues. Virgil did post that they would be available in men's, which created a pretty rational misconception, so I'll clarify it for you guys. There is no separate men's stock keeping unit. There's only women's, which is CV9388-100. What he really means in layman's terms is that they will be big enough for men to rock these too. But with the release info out of the way, why don't we jump into the background information on these sneakers. Back in November of 2017, Virgil Abloh's deconstruction of 9 iconic Nike silhouettes released throughout the day. Certainly something none of us will ever forget for those of us who were there. Following that, we later saw the 10th pair drop in spring, the Converse, along with numerous other colorways following that throughout the next year of the since discontinued 10 collection. Following this, we saw many other notable collabs after the discontinued 10. We've seen some not so great collaborations such as the track and field pairs, along with many other great collaborations such as the MCA or even the Dunks. In fact, arguably the most important Off-White sneaker just so happened to be a Jordan as well. Unfortunately, the next Jordan doesn't quite have a deep story to it, but it certainly does take part in the history of the Off-White collabs. And this, my friends, something we have all been waiting for. This is the Off-White Jordan 4 sale. It is finally came. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's discuss exactly how you could cop these, whether it's for resale intentions or for personal wear. To start off, follow Off-White on Instagram because they will be posting a heavily stocked raffle. You could also feel free to follow my personal Instagram. Just kidding, you obviously don't have to follow my Instagram, there's nothing of use over there. But I would suggest actually following my Twitter, KeithAdam10, because I will be uploading a full raffle list onto there for any sites that are dropping online raffles. Not to mention, I do also tweet out some urgent information, such as the exclusive access that went live today. So along with following, also feel free to subscribe and enable post notifications, but anyway, let's move on. Regarding the raffles, it's suggested that you exploit them to the fullest extent. This would mean making multiple entries with jigged info. If you guys need a full guide on how to jig your info, including how to make a catch-all, I put up a full guide when the chunky dunks were releasing, so I'm not going to be explaining it again just because I don't want to bore any of my loyal subscribers. Hope you guys could understand, but feel free to check out this video if you don't know anything about jigging, you don't know how to make a catch-all, because it's extremely useful info even for non-raffle releases. Moving on, along with the Nike Sneakers Access, of course they are going to be doing a normal drop as well. Nike Sneakers US will be doing their full drop at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and Europe will be at 9 a.m. local time. This release will be a draw. It will not be a Leo drop, even though they did initially load as a Leo. It was just a couple of days ago actually where they changed it to a draw, which I guess is all the better considering it leaves you even more time to enter in as many accounts as possible. So a draw essentially means you'll have exactly 10 minutes to enter in as many accounts as you can possibly enter within that short period of time. Regarding the information when it comes to all of your accounts, you don't need to jig your address unless it's an absolutely insane amount of entries. So maybe if you were getting a lot of your friends to help you out with this, or if you were running a bot that wasn't on browser mode, which I highly suggest using browser mode when it comes to very hyped releases like this. But regardless, you can jig your address for safety. However, what is very important is not using the same card or PayPal more than 5 times. 5 times is the absolute limit. 3 times is likely the safest to avoid getting filtered, but I haven't really seen any issues with 5 either. So this would mean you should be able to use the same exact card or the same exact PayPal email on 5 accounts. Now, obviously, you're going to have plenty of time. You're going to be able to make more than 5 entries. So to do this, if you don't have enough physical cards to take advantage of all your accounts, you could actually set up some virtual cards through Privacy or Eno from Capital One. In addition to that, you could also use multiple emails added onto your PayPal account, because although it is deriving from that same PayPal account, it still is seen as a completely different account because you are using a different email. So that's fine as well. Regarding IP bans, I suggest entering a max of 3 to 5 entries per IP address. Now, you might be asking, how exactly are you supposed to change your IP? And that's very simple. First of all, you could very well use a proxy switcher. That is one viable option. However, if you don't want to use a proxy switcher, what you can do on the other hand, just connect on another device to your phone on long-term evolution, or you could even do it from your phone if you really want to, and you're using long-term evolution rather than connected to your home Wi-Fi, so this way you do have a different gateway. Now, after you make 3 entries, or if you want to risk it and do 5 entries, enable airplane mode and then disable it. This way, it's going to give you a different port. Although it's not a completely different IP address, Sneakers is going to be seen as a different IP address, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. So that's exactly how you could get around it. So try to prepare this in advance, how exactly you're going to be doing this. If you plan on using your phone, I would suggest typing out your accounts and the passwords in the notes of your phone or a Google Doc that you could access through the app, so you could easily copy and paste efficiently. And the same goes if you're entering through the web. I would highly suggest using your notes or a Google Doc. Simple copy and paste through there, or you could even set them up beforehand. Now, regarding how to make multiple accounts, because obviously the majority of you probably only have 1 or 2 accounts from family members, the only thing that can hold you back from making a ton of these accounts would be the verification process, and for this you will have to use different phone numbers on each account. You'll notice if you try to use the same phone number twice, it's just going to unverify the other account, completely undoing what you're trying to do. So to this, you will have to try to bother a friend. You'll have to ask them, hey, would you mind if I used your phone number for the Nike Sneakers app, and you just send over a quick verification code for me. Obviously, they should be fine with it because there's no harm in this unless they do have a Nike account already. But for those of you who don't want to bother any of your friends, or you simply just want a mass amount of accounts, you can feel free to check out my website TARS in the link in the description below. I added plenty of stock this time, so I don't think they will go out of stock like they did last time on the Jordan 5s. I do apologize for that, but there should be plenty of stock this time. Now, aside from the majority of stock being on Nike sneakers, the Off-White site should also drop a decent amount of pairs as well. Now, just because it's a decent amount of pairs, that doesn't exactly mean it's going to be a good manual shot, and unfortunately, it's really not. It used to be a fantastic place for manual users before Farfetch purchased Off-White, and if you did have access to a really good monitor, it used to be incredible. However, they're no longer using Varito. It's a completely different developer team now, unfortunately, so bots do essentially take over the site now in comparison to before, where it wasn't really so dominated by bots. You were able to cop manually. You still can cop manually now, but just beware if you are planning to stay up for this drop, because it should be around 4 a.m. Eastern time or 10 a.m. local in Europe. Just understand that these drops are absolutely atrocious now. They've consistently been terrible since the Dunk release. The Off-White Jordan 5 was absolutely awful. So obviously expect a lot of errors going into this. There's not too many tips I could really offer here, aside from obviously making sure you have the account prepared beforehand, you have all your information added to that account, and although recently you haven't really needed a reshipper from that US domain, it still would be wise, just as a precaution, to set up a reshipper anyway, just in case. The drop doesn't sell out instantly when it comes to Off-White because the site performance is so extremely poor that even bots can't take stock immediately. So you'll certainly face a lot of connection issues, but eventually you may end up getting lucky, whether it's 30 or 40 minutes into the drop. So if you do plan on staying up, just remember it takes persistency, not exactly speed. You just have to keep on being patient with the website and obviously expect it to be terrible. Farfetch does have a decent chance at dropping since they did purchase Off-White, but just beware in case they do drop the product with a very high retail. They did that with numerous other Off-White products in the past. So if you do see a resale price on these, don't buy it, because yes, that's the legitimate price they do list it at. So just be careful, guys, because there is a very high probability that you will end up seeing that very high retail, and you don't want to pay resale for these, obviously. You want to get them for retail and sell them for resale. Anyway, just make sure you have an account added on each site, and don't go in with high expectation. Now, although they are supposed to go live around 4 a.m. Eastern time, to know the exact time on when they do drop in case there is a slight delay, I would suggest following these 3 accounts, and that would be Virgil Abloh, More Sneakers, and Soul Links. They are pretty good at usually tweeting out on time if you don't have access to a monitor, but obviously if you do have access to a monitor or even early add to cart links, obviously that's what you're going to want to take advantage of. Moving on, there are very, very few Foot Lockers that are going to be receiving these, but I would still suggest checking the Foot Locker app for the flex reservations. If there is one within driving distance of you, if you're willing to make that drive for a very significant amount of profit, certainly go for it. So check your Foot Locker apps if you haven't already. Then there should be some Shopify drops as well, hopefully at least. Unfortunately, though, for manual users, especially if you don't have a monitor, your chances are slim to none for copying. The 4 sites that you may have somewhat of a sliver of a chance on would be Dover Street Market London, which should be at 6 a.m. Eastern Time if they hypothetically drop. Dover Street Market New York, hypothetically at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Then Undefeated, although Undefeated normally drops products at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, that likely won't be the case when it comes to Off-White. When it comes to these very, very hyped collabs like Off-White or even Travis Scott sneakers, they tend to drop at either 10 a.m., 12 p.m., 1 p.m., 1:30 p.m., or 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Those are common times for Undefeated when it comes to these very, very hyped sneakers rather than the normal general release sneakers. Then also Kith at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You could give all those a shot. I would highly suggest making an account beforehand, and if you don't have access to an early link or if you don't have access to a monitor at least, I would then suggest just refreshing the page with the search of Jordan 4. Like I said though, when it comes to those Shopify sites, just brace yourself. Don't really go in expecting to cop, but it's not going to hurt you to try. Anyway, that is essentially it. Unfortunately, the majority of releases nowadays are raffles when it comes to these very, very hyped limited sneakers. Moving on to resale predictions, I think it's pretty obvious when it comes to these. This is evidently a major brick. You should not buy any of these, no matter what at all costs. You should 100% avoid these. Now, if you couldn't tell, I was being sarcastic, specifically because this product requires no analyzation at all. Obviously, everything will be extremely profitable no matter what size you get. The margin is going to be absolutely incredible. So, of course, you know, we're going full throttle. But anyway, that's going to conclude it for today. Again, if you guys do need verified sneakers accounts, feel free to check out the link in the description for TARS. Also, subscribe and enable post notifications to stay 100% updated on all hyped releases just like this. And also, feel free to follow my Twitter, KeithAdam10, for more urgent updates, such as what we saw earlier today. Feel free to leave a like if you did enjoy, or you perhaps learn a thing or two. With that, though, I'll see you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of your day.